Assalamu alaikum, my brothers and sisters. There is something deeply comforting yet humbling about realizing that uncertainty is not a sign of weak faith. We often assume that if we truly trusted Allah, we would feel calm all the time. That fear would disappear, that questions would stop forming in our hearts. But the Quran quietly corrects that assumption in a powerful way by showing us that even the best of people, the prophets of Allah, lived through seasons where the outcome was unknown. And think about Prophet Yaqub alayhi salam, a prophet, a man of revelation, a man chosen by Allah. And yet, when his beloved son Yusuf was taken from him, Yaqub did not know where he was. He did not know whether Yusuf was alive or dead. He did not know when or if relief would come. Years passed, then more years, then decades. Imagine that pain. Imagine that waiting. And here is where we need to pause, because this is where our understanding of Tawakkul often breaks down. Yaqub did not say, since Allah is all-knowing, I must know the answer too. He did not demand clarity. He did not stop loving Allah because he didn't understand the plan. Instead, he anchored his heart to something far deeper than answers. He trusted who Allah is, not what Allah would do next. This is the difference between surface-level faith and rooted faith. Many of us say, I trust Allah, but what we really mean is, I trust Allah as long as things make sense to me. Yaqub teaches us a higher level. But he knew Allah as Al-Alim, the one whose knowledge is complete, even when ours is empty. He knew Allah as Al-Hakim, high class, the one who places every event exactly where it belongs, even when it hurts. That's why Yaqub said something extraordinary. He said that he only complained of his grief to Allah, not about Allah, not against Allah, but to Allah. That distinction matters. Complaining to Allah is worship. Complaining about Allah is doubt. Yaqub cried. He grieved. He went blind from sorrow. But his pain never turned into accusation. His tears never became rebellion. This is important for anyone who is struggling right now. If you feel tired, if you feel confused, if you're asking Allah when instead of why, you are not failing in faith. You are standing exactly where prophets once stood. Tawakkul was never about having emotional certainty. It was about moral certainty. Knowing that Allah is good, even when life feels harsh. Yaqub didn't know how the story would end, but he knew the one who was writing it. And that was enough. Here's the uncomfortable truth we don't like to hear. Allah does not owe us explanations, but He does promise wisdom, justice, and mercy, even when we cannot see them yet. When you accept that, something shifts inside you. You stop measuring Allah's care by speed. You stop measuring His love by ease. You stop assuming delay means rejection, and you begin to realize something profound. Not knowing the outcome is not a sign that Allah has abandoned you. It is often a sign that He is preparing something far greater than your imagination. Just like Yusuf's story, what began as loss turned into leadership. What began as separation ended in reunion. What began in confusion ended in clarity. But clarity came after patience, not before it. And that is the test. And one of the most misunderstood concepts in our relationship with Allah is hikmah, divine wisdom. We often translate hikmah as wisdom, but that English word barely scratches the surface. Hikmah is not just knowing what to do, it is knowing where, when, how, and why something belongs exactly where it is, even if we dislike its placement. In simple terms, hikmah means nothing in your life is random, misplaced, or late. That sounds comforting until life hurts. Because the real test of hikmah isn't when things go well, it's when things fall apart. When doors close, you were certain would open. when dua seems unanswered, when effort doesn't produce the result you expected, when you look around and think, oh, ya wallah, this doesn't make sense. This is where many believers struggle, not because they lack faith, but because they assume wisdom must always feel good. It doesn't. Sometimes wisdom feels like delay. Sometimes it feels like loss. Sometimes it feels like silence. But silence from Allah is not absence. It is often precision. Think again about the story of Yusuf alayhi salam. If Yusuf had been freed from the well immediately, there would be no palace. If he had avoided prison, there would be no authority. If Yaqub's grief had ended quickly, there would be no lesson in patience that millions of hearts still learn from today. Each stage was painful. Each stage was necessary. Hikmah means Allah doesn't just look at your comfort today. He looks at your destination forever. We, on the other hand, are impatient creatures. We want answers now, relief now, clarity now. But the Qur'an gently reminds us that human beings were created with ajal, haste. We rush to judge situations before they mature. We call something bad because we only see one chapter, while Allah sees the entire book. This is why calamities and blessings are both tests. A calamity tests your patience, until blessing tests your gratitude, and neither lasts forever. This is something we forget when we're drowning in hardship. We subconsciously think, this is my new permanent reality. But Islam teaches us something more balanced. No state is eternal except the hereafter. Hardship comes and it leaves. Ease arrives and it also leaves. So what is expected from a believer in between? Not panic, not entitlement, not despair, but steadiness. A believer learns to stand emotionally upright whether the wind blows cold or warm. That doesn't mean you don't feel pain. It means pain doesn't decide your beliefs. This is why rushing dua is dangerous. The Prophet warned against saying, I made dua, but it wasn't answered. Why? Because that statement assumes Allah failed, when in reality Allah may have redirected, delayed, or protected you from something worse. The hikmah means Allah sometimes answers your dua by saying, not yet. Not like this. I have something better. But because we only asked for one version of relief, we mistakenly think nothing is happening. In truth, everything is happening, just beyond your sight. And here's something deeply freeing if you let it sink in. Allah does not need your understanding to execute His wisdom. He only asks for your trust. When you internalize hikmah, anxiety begins to lose its grip. And when you stop obsessing over timelines, you stop measuring your worth by outcomes, or you stop assuming Allah is displeased just because life is difficult. Instead, you begin to say, Ya Allah, I don't see it yet, but I trust that you placed this here on purpose. That sentence alone can quiet a restless heart, because hikmah reminds you of something essential. If Allah is all-knowing, and Allah is all-wise, then nothing touching your life is accidental. Not the delay, not the loss, not the confusion. It's all placed exactly where it belongs. One of the greatest causes of anxiety is the illusion that we are supposed to understand everything. We live in an age where information is instant. Answers are one search away. Maps tell us where to go. Algorithms predict what we like. Slowly, without realizing it, the heart begins to assume, if I can't understand it, something is wrong. Islam dismantles that illusion gently, but completely, because one of Allah's names is Al-Alim, the all-knowing. Not the most knowing, not the highly knowledgeable, but the one whose knowledge has no beginning, no end, no limits, and no gaps. And when the Qur'an wants to humble the human mind, it doesn't do it by shaming us. It does it by expanding our vision. Allah tells us that if every ocean were ink, and every tree were a pen, and the oceans were refilled again and again, the words of Allah would still not be exhausted? Pause there. This isn't poetry for effect. It's a recalibration of perspective. The all human knowledge, every book, every discovery, every equation, every medical breakthrough fits into something Allah describes as finite, while His knowledge is endless. And here's where peace begins. Because anxiety often comes from thinking, what if I made the wrong decision? What if this choice ruins everything? What if I don't see what's coming? But what if the one guiding your life sees everything coming? Science itself humbles us. We are told that only a small fraction of the universe is observable. The rest, vast, powerful, expanding, remains unseen. Entire systems operate beyond our instruments, beyond our reach, beyond our comprehension. And Allah knows it all, not approximately, not statistically, but intimately. He knows what hasn't been discovered yet. He knows what will never be discovered. He knows what you forgot and what you never even noticed. And then Allah brings this overwhelming scale down to you. He tells us that not even the weight of an atom escapes His knowledge. Not a leaf falling. Not a heartbeat skipping. Not a tear forming before it touches your skin. This is where Tawakkul stops being a slogan and becomes a refuge. Tawakkul is not passive. It's not laziness. It's not saying, I'll do nothing and expect everything. True Tawakkul is effort anchored in trust. You do what you can, fully, sincerely, responsibly, and then you hand the outcome to the one who sees what you don't. And here's the key shift. You were never meant to carry the burden of outcomes. You were only meant to carry the burden of obedience. Once you understand how small your knowledge is compared to Allah's, you stop trying to control the future like a god and start living like a servant. And strangely, that's when the heart feels lighter. Think about it. Why should your limited sight override Allah's infinite sight? Why should your fear outweigh His knowledge? Even why should your imagination of worst-case scenarios compete with His perfect decree? When Allah withholds something, He does so knowingly. When He delays something, He delays it precisely. When He gives, He gives with awareness of consequences you may never see. This doesn't mean life won't hurt, but it means pain is never pointless. It means confusion is never proof of abandonment. It means unanswered questions are not signs of neglect, but invitations to trust. And this is why the righteous before us could sleep with calm hearts even when their lives were unstable. They knew something we often forget. The one managing their affairs was never confused. Not once. Not ever. So when your mind spirals with what ifs, remind it gently. Allah already knows. When fear whispers, this doesn't make sense, respond, it doesn't have to. He sees the whole. And when your heart feels overwhelmed by how little control you have, I'll let that realization turn into relief. Because you were never meant to carry the weight of the universe. Allah already does. Now let's bring everything closer. From galaxies, oceans, and unseen realms to you. Because one of the most overlooked signs of Allah's knowledge and mercy is not in the sky. It's in your own body. You are not just alive, you are precisely managed. At this very moment, without your permission, awareness, or effort, your body is performing miracles that no supercomputer could fully replicate. Inside you are tens of trillions of human cells, each with a specific role, lifespan, and function. Alongside them are even more bacterial cells, working in harmony to digest food, protect you, and keep you alive. You didn't design this system. You don't supervise it. You don't even understand most of it, yet it works. Every second, millions of red blood cells are born, and millions die. Not randomly, not chaotically, with exact balance. Too many would cause harm. Too few would cause collapse. Allah maintains that balance effortlessly. And here's the part that should stop the heart for a moment. If Allah is managing this level of complexity inside you is without you even noticing, why do you think your future is too complicated for Him? We panic over tomorrow while our hearts beat faithfully without instruction. We stress about provision while oxygen enters our blood flawlessly. We fear loss while nerves fire, our muscles move, wounds heal, and cells repair by Allah's permission. This is not accidental design. This is intentional care. Then comes the DNA. Every single cell carries a code so detailed that if it were written out, it would fill thousands of pages. And that code isn't just information. It's instruction, timing, regulation, and balance. One tiny error can cause illness. And yet, most of the time, it's perfect. That's mercy. You didn't earn it. You didn't request it. Or you didn't even think about it. Allah simply gave it. This realization changes how a believer sees anxiety. Because anxiety often comes from thinking, what if things fall apart? What if I can't hold everything together? But you were never holding anything together. Allah was. Your body itself is proof that Allah's management does not depend on your awareness, strength, or confidence. So when your life feels unstable, you remind your heart, the same Lord who sustains my cells can sustain my affairs. And this is where Tawakkul deepens. Tawakkul is not blind optimism. It's informed trust. It's saying, I have seen enough signs to know Allah is careful, precise, and merciful, even when I don't feel it. Think about this. You sleep for hours completely unconscious, vulnerable, defenseless. And you wake up alive. That alone should soften the hardest fear. If Allah can protect you when you're unaware, He can guide you when you're confused. If He can regulate your heartbeat without consultation, He can regulate your risk without panic. If He can heal wounds without asking you how, He can heal your life without explaining every step. This doesn't mean hardship disappears, but it reframes hardship. Pain becomes part of a process, not proof of punishment. Delay becomes timing, not denial. Uncertainty becomes space for trust, not a threat. And here's a powerful shift. Stop asking, Annain, why is this happening to me? Start asking, what is Allah growing in me? Because growth often happens silently, just like healing. You don't feel bones strengthening. You don't feel cells regenerating. You don't feel immunity forming. Yet it happens. Likewise, patience forms quietly. Resilience builds unseen. Reliance deepens slowly. And by the time you look back, you realize, Allah was carrying me the entire time. You are not forgotten. You are not unmanaged. You are not overlooked. Like you are living inside mercy. Whether you recognize it today or not. If the human body humbles you, the universe silences you. Because once you step back and look at the scale of creation, something powerful happened to the heart. Your problems stop feeling like the center of existence, not because they don't matter, but because you finally see who is handling them. We live on Earth, and to us, Earth feels massive. Mountains feel unmovable. Oceans feel endless. Skies feel infinite. But the moment Allah allows us to glimpse beyond our immediate surroundings, our sense of scale collapses. The sun alone can fit over 1 million Earths inside it. And the sun, this blazing giant that controls our days, seasons, and survival, is just one star among hundreds of billions in the Milky Way galaxy. And the Milky Way? It's one galaxy among trillions. Let that sit for a moment. Trillions of galaxies, each with billions of stars, each star with its own systems, but all moving in precise order. None colliding randomly. None disobeying their cause. Allah says that the sun and the moon each float in an orbit. They don't rush, they don't delay, they don't rebel. They move exactly as commanded. Now pause and ask yourself in basic, if Allah is maintaining this, what makes you think your situation is too difficult? Fear often grows when we feel alone, unsupported, and overwhelmed. But the universe is proof that nothing is unmanaged. Not a star, not a planet, Charan, not a particle. Allah even reminds us that not a single leaf falls without His knowledge. So when something falls apart in your life, it didn't escape His awareness. And this is where tawakkul becomes real, not poetic, not theoretical, but practical. Tawakkul is when your heart says, if Allah controls galaxies I can't even comprehend, then surely He can control the conversation I'm afraid of, the provision I'm worried about, and the future I can't see. The problem isn't that Allah's plan is unclear. The problem is that we want answers at a scale we can understand. But wisdom doesn't always come in explanations. Sometimes it comes in perspective. When Allah lifts your gaze, He shrinks your fear. And that's intentional because fear thrives in narrow vision. When your world becomes just, your job, your bank balance, your health report, your unanswered dua, your heart suffocates. But when your world includes a universe older than time, laws that never break, mercy that never runs dry, knowledge that never misses, your chest expands. You breathe again. This doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop carrying what was never meant for you to carry. Here's something profound. The universe runs on submission. Stars don't question their path. Planets don't resist gravity. Night doesn't argue with day. Everything submits, except humans. And yet Allah still offers us mercy, and patience and guidance. That alone should soften the most anxious heart. Because even when we hesitate, doubt, panic, or resist, Allah doesn't abandon us. He invites us back. And so when fear whispers, what if this never works out? Let the universe answer, what if it's unfolding exactly as it should? When anxiety says, I can't see how this will end, creation responds, you were never meant to see everything, only to trust the one who does. This is why the prophets had calm hearts even in chaos. Not because they had easier lives, but because they had clearer vision. They knew Allah was never reacting, He was always planning. And that realization changes how you walk through hardship. You stop rushing Allah's timing. You stop demanding instant clarity. You stop interpreting silence as rejection. Instead, you begin to say, my Lord is doing something bigger than what I currently understand. That sentence alone can calm a storm inside the chest. And here's the most comforting part. In a universe this vast, Allah still knows your name. He knows your fear before you speak it, your tear before it falls, your dua before you finish it. You are not lost in the crowd of creation. You are intentionally placed. And if Allah brought you here, He already knows how to take you forward. Now we arrive at the most important question. Not a theoretical one, not a lecture question, but a question that lives inside the chest of every believer who is trying, yet still feels afraid. How do you live with tawakkul when fear keeps coming back? When you understand Allah's knowledge, when you believe in His wisdom, yet anxiety still knocks at your heart. Because let's be honest, tawakkul does not mean fear disappears forever. It means fear no longer controls you. Many people misunderstand reliance on Allah. They think tawakkul is a switch. Once flipped, you feel calm all the time. That's not how the prophets lived. That's not how the righteous lived. And that's not how the human heart works. And even Prophet Yaqub, a prophet of Allah, felt grief so intense that he lost his eyesight. Yet Allah still praised his patience. Why? Because tawakkul is not the absence of pain. It is the refusal to let pain turn you away from Allah. Fear returns because you are human. Tawakkul remains because you are a believer. The difference is subtle, but life-changing. And a heart without tawakkul asks, Why is this happening to me? A heart with tawakkul asks, what does Allah want me to learn from this? Fear says, I can't handle this. Tawakkul replies, Allah would not place me here without a way through. This is where many people go wrong. They wait to feel peaceful before trusting Allah. But in reality, peace comes after trust, not before it. You don't wait for calm to rely on Allah. You rely on Allah. And calm slowly follows. Sometimes immediately. Sometimes gradually. Sometimes only after the storm passes. And all of it is valid. Living with tawakkul means doing 3 things consistently, especially when fear returns. First, separate your responsibility from Allah's role. One of the biggest causes of anxiety is carrying what was never assigned to you, and your role. Make dua, take lawful means, act with integrity. Avoid, do what Allah has forbidden. Allah's role. Decide outcomes. Got me, control timing. Open and close doors. Bring ease after hardship. Fear comes when you try to do both roles at once. When you try to plan outcomes, guarantee results, or force timing, you exhaust your soul. Tawakkul is saying, I will do what Allah asked of me, and I will leave what only Allah can do to him. That single shift removes a heavy burden from the heart. So second, understand that delay is not neglect. This is where many hearts break. A delayed answer feels like silence. Silence feels like rejection. Rejection feels like abandonment. But Allah never equates delay with neglect. Sometimes Allah delays because what you're asking for would harm you. Now your heart isn't ready. Yet something better is being prepared. The reward is being saved for the hereafter. And sometimes the delay itself is the gift because it draws you closer. It humbles you. And it purifies your intention. It teaches you reliance instead of entitlement. If Allah answered every dua instantly, many hearts would forget Him just as quickly. Fear fades when you realize Allah is not late. He is precise. Third, anchor your heart in what never changes. Your circumstances change, your emotions change, your strength changes. But Allah does not change. His knowledge does not decrease. His mercy does not expire. His wisdom does not fail. His promise does not break. When fear rises, don't argue with it using emotions. Anchor yourself using truth. Say it. Even if your heart is shaking, Allah knows. Allah sees. Allah is in control. Allah is merciful. You don't need perfect certainty to have tawakkul. You just need to keep returning. And that's the most beautiful part. Allah does not demand unshakable faith. He loves returning hearts. And every time fear pulls you away and you turn back, that turn itself is worship. That struggle itself is closeness. That quiet decision to trust again is beloved to Allah. So if today your heart is tired, if your future feels unclear, if your dua feels unanswered, know this, the one who controls the universe, the one who counts every cell, the one who knows every unseen thing, has not forgotten you. Your fear is not proof of weak faith. Your return to Allah is proof of strong iman. And one day, maybe sooner than you think, you'll look back and realize the thing you feared the most was the path Allah used to bring you closer than ever before. And that is the reality of tawakkul. Not a life without storms, but a heart that knows who commands the sea.